Leonardo DiCaprio should be in a franchise. He is the most bankable dramatic actor of his generation. He works with the biggest directors. He opens films in his name alone. He has global recognition, critical respect, and $7 billion in box office proof. Yet the offers never came. Not once. Not Marvel, not DC, not Star Wars, not a single sequel in 30 years. This was not rejection. It was something else. A silent, industry-wide understanding that he existed in a different category. The machine that builds franchises simply stopped registering him as a candidate. The question is not why he said no. The question is why they stopped asking. Somewhere in the architecture of Hollywood, a threshold exists that separates movie stars from franchise assets. DiCaprio crossed it without anyone noticing. His career is evidence that the line exists. Reason number 1, the Titanic pivot. The fracture begins in 1997. Before Titanic, DiCaprio was a rising talent, Oscar-nominated for What's Eating Gilbert Grape, magnetic in Romeo plus Juliet, promising but still ascending. Then, James Cameron's Titanic detonated. 11 Academy Awards, over $2 billion worldwide, a cultural tidal wave so overwhelming it rewired the industry. And at the center of it was a 23-year-old actor who suddenly couldn't walk down the street. The fame wasn't glamorous, it was suffocating. Crowds, tabloids, obsession, a level of visibility that stopped feeling like success and started feeling like captivity. Blockbuster superstardom revealed something brutal. Scale erases control. When a film becomes that large, you stop being an artist and start becoming infrastructure. The machine doesn't just market the movie, it markets you. It monetizes you. It packages your face as a repeatable property. Franchises thrive on that model. Repeat the chemistry, replicate the formula, sustain the illusion. DiCaprio saw what that future looked like and stepped sideways. Instead of locking into another spectacle, he chose uncertainty. The beach, flawed, divisive, intentionally off balance. He aligned himself with filmmakers rather than franchises. Danny Boyle, Woody Allen, Steven Spielberg on Catch Me If You Can. Then Martin Scorsese on Gangs of New York. The shift was deliberate. He wasn't retreating from fame, he was reclaiming authorship. That distinction matters because studios track patterns, and DiCaprio established one early. He would not be owned by momentum. He would not be contracted into repetition. Once that perception hardens, the offers change, or they stop. Hollywood rarely pitches long-term franchise deals to actors who signal resistance to long-term control. It moves toward younger, more flexible talent, performers who can grow inside the IP instead of outside it. And by the early 2000s, DiCaprio had made his position clear. He wasn't going to belong to a universe. He was going to build a body of work. That decision didn't just shape his career, it quietly removed him from the future Hollywood was about to construct. Reason number 2, the Scorsese Pact. The second reason isn't a genre, it's a relationship. Martin Scorsese. Since Gangs of New York in 2002, DiCaprio has made 6 films with Scorsese, nearly a quarter of his filmography. In studio terms, that's not collaboration, that's allocation. When DiCaprio commits to Scorsese, he vanishes for years. Development, rehearsal, production, award season, his calendar closes. Franchises cannot function around that kind of absence. They require actors who can pre-commit to sequels before opening weekend. Actors who are available for reshoots, spin-offs, crossovers, and global press tours. A franchise isn't a single film. It's a long-term infrastructure plan. DiCaprio built his career on the opposite principle. Scorsese develops slowly. Quentin Tarantino works in multi-year gaps. Christopher Nolan constructs standalone events that demand total immersion. These directors don't operate on 18-month studio cycles. They absorb an actor completely. Studios track this. They know which filmmakers effectively hold certain stars. And DiCaprio's loyalty to Scorsese isn't casual, it's foundational. When a Scorsese project materializes, everything else moves aside. So when executives imagine offering him a franchise, they're not just competing with another script. They're competing with a decades-long creative alliance that almost always wins. In Hollywood, availability is currency. DiCaprio spent his on auteurs. Reason number 3, the franchise machine. To understand the third reason, you must understand what franchises actually demand from an actor. A franchise is not a series of films. It is a delivery system. When an actor signs on to a Marvel or Star Wars project, they are not signing for one movie. They are signing for a decade of interconnected appearances, promotional obligations, press tours, cameo setups, and contractual windows that block out competing projects. The character is not theirs, it is leased to them, with strict terms. The actor becomes a component in a machine designed to output content on schedule. DiCaprio has spent 30 years building the opposite relationship with his work. He develops scripts for years before committing. He controls the packaging. He has producer credits on most of his films. He dictates the pace, the director, the co-stars, and the shooting schedule. He is not a component. He is the architect. This is incompatible with franchise logic. In a franchise, the architect is the studio. The IP is the star. The actor is replaceable, as seen when Terrence Howard was swapped for Don Cheadle, or when Edward Norton was replaced by Mark Ruffalo. The machine requires actors who accept that they are temporary stewards of a permanent asset. DiCaprio has never accepted that role. He has never positioned himself as a steward. He is the destination, not the vehicle. And studios know that offering him a franchise role means negotiating with someone who expects creative control over a property they have no intention of sharing. Reason number 4, the Oscar chase. By the mid-2000s, DiCaprio wasn't just avoiding franchises. He was chasing something else: awards. Not vanity awards, not popularity metrics, institutional validation. The kind that reshapes how the industry categorizes you. After The Aviator, Blood Diamond, and The Departed, a pattern emerged. These weren't franchise auditions, they were prestige plays. Franchises promise longevity. Oscars promise legacy. That distinction matters. Once an actor is placed inside the serious contender lane, studios treat them differently. They become awards capital. Their projects are packaged for festivals, fall releases, and prestige campaigns. A superhero trilogy complicates that positioning. A decade inside one character risks flattening perception. The Academy historically resists franchise identity unless the performance breaks the mold entirely. DiCaprio's career from 2004 onward looks less like diversification and more like calibration. Each role escalates difficulty. Each collaboration reinforces gravitas. The work becomes heavier, darker, more punishing, culminating in The Revenant, a physically brutal performance that finally secured the Oscar. That win wasn't accidental. It was the logical endpoint of a 15-year trajectory. Studios know which actors are chasing recurring contracts and which are building award portfolios. They rarely blur those lanes unless the actor initiates it. DiCaprio didn't. He optimized for permanence, not repetition. By the time the cinematic universe era reached full industrial scale, he was no longer a candidate for brand embedding. He was an institution chasing legacy. Reason number 5, the Marvel era shift. The fifth reason is timing. When Marvel Studios launched Iron Man in 2008, DiCaprio was 33, fresh off The Departed, Blood Diamond, The Aviator, already orbiting prestige. On paper, he looked like the perfect candidate. Serious, bankable, capable of elevating genre material the way Robert Redford or Cate Blanchett later would. But Marvel wasn't yet inevitable. Phase 1 was a gamble. Phase 2 was proof of concept. By Phase 3, it was industrial dominance. By then, DiCaprio was 40, multiple Oscar nominations, deep inside the prestige ecosystem. The launch window had closed quietly. Franchises aren't built around actors entering their 40s. They're engineered around durability. Chris Evans was 29 when he debuted as Captain America. Chris Hemsworth was 27. Tom Holland was 19. Even Robert Downey Jr., older than the rest, was positioned as a redemption narrative, not the long-term blueprint. DiCaprio aged out of the entry point while he was consolidating legacy. And once Marvel became powerful enough to recruit heavyweight actors for supporting or villain roles, he no longer fit that function. The franchise era didn't reject him, it accelerated past him, while he was climbing a different mountain. By the time the machine stabilized, he had already become incompatible with its design. Reason number 6, the age equation. The sixth reason is the most clinical. Leonardo DiCaprio is 50 years old. In franchise economics, that places him in an uncomfortable category: legacy casting. Franchises built around actors in their 50s aren't origin stories, they're extensions. Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny leaned on Harrison Ford's nostalgia. The Flash revived Michael Keaton's Batman for recognition value. These aren't long-term foundations, they're short-term leverage plays. Studios launching new universes think in 10 to 15-year arcs. They need actors who can anchor multiple films across a decade, who can grow with the audience rather than age ahead of it. When Marvel casts a 30-year-old, they're projecting into the 2030s. When they cast a 50-year-old, it's usually for authority, mentorship, or a contained arc. DiCaprio cannot realistically offer a 15-year runway inside one character. At best, he could commit to a compressed cycle, and compressed cycles contradict franchise logic. A DiCaprio-led universe would demand massive upfront cost, accelerated timelines, and a pre-planned exit. It would revolve around him, not the IP. That reverses the modern hierarchy, where the property must outlive the performer. This isn't sentiment, it's life cycle math. Franchises prioritize durability above all else. DiCaprio crossed the launch threshold while Hollywood was restructuring itself around youth-scalable IP. And in the current system, there is no second entry point, only maintenance roles. And DiCaprio has never positioned himself for maintenance. Conclusion: Leonardo DiCaprio did not refuse franchises. He simply stopped being asked. The 7 reasons are not failures. They are accumulations, choices that built a career the machine could not categorize. He is not in the franchise conversation because he became the conversation. The system that cycles through stars could not touch him. He was never inside it. But the mechanism that excluded him continues to run. It is processing the next generation right now, quietly determining which actors will never receive the call. DiCaprio is not the exception. He is the first proof of a rule we are only beginning to see applied elsewhere.